They thought she was a driver, maybe a clerk, just another uniform passing through the checkpoint on a dusty Tuesday morning. That's what the MP at the gate said, half smiling as if she'd wandered into the wrong part of base by accident, her boots leaving faint impressions in the sand while a line of vehicles idled behind her. He didn't know the weight she carried, didn't see the history in the creases of her weathered patrol cap, didn't realize the laminated ID in her hand had been through 3 deployments and 1 ambush that nearly ended a convoy before it began. If you agree that respect should be given before rank is checked, like and subscribe, because what happened next will make you rethink who you dismiss. The wind that morning came in sharp off the desert flats, carrying grit that scratched against teeth and stung the eyes, but Leah Raines barely blinked. Late 20s, compact build, shoulders squared without trying. She stood before the barrier with the quiet patience of someone who'd been told, wait, too many times to count. Her ID was old, not expired, just battered, the plastic edges peeling where the heat had warped it, the ink faded from years of being shoved into cargo pockets, in under sun. The 2 MPs manning the gate glanced at it, exchanged a look, and then at her, one eyebrow arched in a silent conversation that didn't need words. Who is she? And why is she here? The taller of the 2, Corporal Givens, turned the card over like he was inspecting a suspect bill at a gas station. You know this isn't a motor pool access card, right? He said, his tone balancing between official and amused. Leah nodded once, voice steady. I'm here to observe convoy staging. Orders are in the system. Givens' partner, a younger MP named Dunn, smirked. Orders in the system, huh? Yeah, sure. And I'm the president. The laugh was short, meant more for his partner than her, but it carried enough for the mechanics inside the staging yard to catch it, a few glances turning into low chuckles. Leah didn't flinch. She'd heard worse in more dangerous places, but she knew enough not to push. You can call my CO, she said simply, her eyes never leaving theirs. Givens handed the card back without looking at her. Tell you what, Sergeant, you wait outside the gate, and if someone important shows up for you, maybe we'll let you in. Until then, no clearance, no entry. Behind her, the sun baked the asphalt until it shimmered, the heat bleeding up into the soles of her boots. The vehicles in the yard, Humvees, troop carriers, a pair of Mrats, gleamed dull tan under layers of dust, their crews moving with the half-distracted rhythm of soldiers in the lull before orders come down. Somewhere in the admin building, a fan rattled. The MP's radios hissed with static and half-heard calls, none of them urgent enough to pull attention away from the fact that Leah was still standing there. A mechanic passing by with a toolbox gave her a once-over, whispered something to another soldier, and they both grinned. To them, she was probably just someone's girlfriend trying to get a photo op in the yard, or a reservist in over her head. Leah glanced down at her boots, not to avoid their eyes, but to ground herself. She'd been here before, in other ways, on roads where locals blocked passage with nothing but a stare, in outposts where every request had to be earned twice over. She didn't argue now because she knew the argument wasn't with them. It was with what they thought they saw, and what they thought they saw was someone harmless. A white cargo van rolled past, the driver slowing enough to take in the scene. More whispers. One of the MPs leaned toward the other and muttered something Leah didn't catch, but the laughter that followed made its meaning clear enough. She inhaled slowly, exhaled slower, eyes tracking the convoy vehicles inside the wire. She knew every one of those routes, not from a map, but from memory baked in under a foreign sun. If they ran the convoy today the way the current plan showed, they'd hit a choke point less than 2 miles out, where a burned-out bus still sat on the roadside from the last insurgent attack in the region. But no one had asked her. No one had even looked twice at the name on the ID. From across the yard, a logistics lieutenant, tall, lean, his uniform sharp enough to cut paper, stepped out of the operations trailer. He was mid-conversation with the supply sergeant when his eyes flicked toward the gate, and he slowed. His gaze locked on Leah for a fraction of a second longer than casual curiosity would allow. The supply sergeant kept talking, but the lieutenant was already fishing his phone from his pocket. He didn't wave, didn't call out. Just stepped back inside the trailer and closed the door. Leah noticed, but said nothing. She kept her hands clasped behind her back, her stance relaxed but deliberate, the way you stand when you want to remind someone that you can wait longer than they can. The MPs eventually stopped looking at her, turning back to their small talk, one of them pulling out a half-crushed pack of gum and offering a piece to the other. The wind kicked up again, rattling the chain-link fence, carrying the faint metallic clank of a loose gate latch. Leah adjusted her cap against the sun, feeling the sweat bead under the band, but making no move to wipe it away. A shadow passed over the asphalt, not from a cloud, but from something darker, larger, moving slow. She turned her head just enough to see the matte black SUV rolling toward the gate, the tinted windows hiding whoever sat inside. The MPs straightened slightly, glancing at each other with a mix of curiosity and the faint unease that comes when you realize you might be about to get evaluated. The SUV came to a stop in front of the barrier. The driver's door opened first, then the rear, and a man stepped out. Boots polished to inspection standard, silver stars on each shoulder. Major General Alan Harker. He didn't look at the MPs, didn't look at the gate. He walked straight to Leah, his shadow cutting across the heat haze between them. And when he stopped in front of her, he didn't ask for ID, didn't ask why she was there. He came to attention, and before anyone else could breathe, he saluted her first. The air at the gate went still, the kind of still that only comes when every pair of eyes realizes at the same time that they've been looking at the wrong person all along. The MPs froze, their hands instinctively moving toward their sides, as if unsure whether to salute to or just stand out of the way. Leah returned the general's salute with calm precision, her movements crisp, unhurried, the sun catching the faint scuffs on her sleeve where the fabric had been rubbed thin by years of rifle straps and armor plates. Major General Harker's voice was steady, but carried enough weight to press the heat right out of the air. "Staff Sergeant Rains, you're leading this convoy." The words hung there for a moment, and Leah caught the way Dunn's eyes widened, a flicker of realization breaking through his smirk before it vanished entirely. "Yes, sir," she replied, her tone measured but carrying a subtle undertone, not of surprise, but of readiness, the way a runner sounds when they've been standing at the starting line long before the gun went off. Parker stepped aside just enough for her to pass, motioning toward the staging yard. "You designed the route," he continued, his gaze sweeping briefly across the yard, letting everyone within earshot know this wasn't up for debate. "You know the terrain better than anyone here. Nobody questions you. Not today." His words rolled across the space like distant thunder, settling into the ears of the mechanics, drivers, and junior officers who had just moments ago been whispering doubts. Leah walked past the gate, her boots striking the sun-baked asphalt with quiet authority. Behind her, Parker's presence was a wall, an unspoken shield between her and the assumptions that had been thrown at her only minutes before. The MPs didn't say a word, their earlier confidence shriveled into the kind of silence that burns more than any reprimand. Inside the yard, soldiers paused mid-task, watching her approach the lead MRAP. The convoy commander, a captain with sharp sunglasses and the easy posture of someone used to giving orders, stepped forward as if to greet her, but stopped short when Harker followed her in. The general didn't raise his voice, didn't have to. "Captain, this is the lead," he said, nodding toward Leah. "She runs point. You follow her calls." "Clear." The captain's jaw tightened in surprise, but he saluted quickly. "Yes, sir." Leah climbed into the passenger seat of the lead vehicle, headset already in hand. She plugged in without needing to be shown where, her voice moving smoothly over the comms. "Convoy, this is Rains on lead. Check mics, check spacing. I want Route Alpha loaded, but we're diverting at Grid 7-2. Copy." The replies came in, one after another, voices shifting from casual to sharp as the soldiers realized this wasn't routine anymore. Outside the MRAP, Harker lingered just long enough to turn to the MPs still posted at the gate. He didn't shout, but his words cut clean. "Next time you check someone's ID," he said, his eyes locking briefly with Givens and Dunn, "check their record first." He didn't wait for a response, didn't need one. The rumble of engines filled the yard as drivers fired up their vehicles, the sound vibrating up through the asphalt. Leah sat forward in her seat, scanning the yard as the convoy began to line up behind her. The captain in the second vehicle gave her a quick nod through the windshield, not the forced politeness of earlier, but the kind of nod that says you've got this, and I know it. She didn't smile, just keyed the mic again. "Let's roll." The barrier lifted, the first MRAP moving forward into the sun, tires crunching over gravel as the rest fell into formation. The MPs stood off to the side now, hands behind their backs, watching the long line of armored vehicles roll out under the lead of the sergeant they'd tried to keep outside. In the dust cloud that followed, Dunn muttered something under his breath, but Givens didn't answer. His eyes were still on the spot where Harker had stood, the weight of the general's words settling deeper with every passing second. Out on the road, Leah's gaze stayed fixed ahead, the headset crackling with radio chatter that she trimmed down to essentials. Every call she made was precise, timed, and in minutes, the convoy moved smoother than it had in months. She marked the choke point in her mind, adjusted the path before they ever hit it, and as they passed the burned-out husk of the bus that had claimed 2 vehicles years ago, her voice came calm over the net. Eyes left, don't slow. Keep formation. The drivers obeyed without hesitation. Behind them, the captain keyed his mic. Lead, that was clean. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. The road stretched ahead, the horizon sharp in the heat haze, and for the first time that morning, the doubt that had clung to her like dust was gone. Not because of a title, not because of the general's stars, but because the road itself answered for her. The convoy rolled back into base under the slanting light of late afternoon, the dust on their windshields turning gold in the low sun, the engines rumbling into silence one by one as vehicles eased into their bays. The crews climbed out, stretching sore legs and rolling stiff shoulders, but the usual chatter was absent. Instead, there was that low, quiet current of respect that follows a run done flawlessly. Leah stepped down from the lead MRAP, her boots hitting the asphalt with the same unhurried confidence she'd had that morning at the gate, though now every eye that landed on her carried something different. No smirks, no second guesses, just the kind of silent acknowledgement soldiers give when they know someone has earned their place. She removed her headset, coiling the cord neatly, and handed it to a young specialist who met her gaze only long enough to mutter, "Good lead, Sergeant." She nodded once, then started toward the motor pool office, but Major General Harker intercepted her halfway, his presence pulling every stray glance in the yard toward them. "Rains," he said, his tone lighter now, but still edged with command. "You saved us 3 hours, 2 refuels, and avoided a spot that's still hot. Some of these folks don't know why you knew to do that. I think it's time they did." Leah shook her head slightly, but Harker wasn't asking. He turned, raising his voice just enough for the surrounding crews to hear without it becoming a speech. "Some of you might remember the Kandahar pullout in 19. Some of you don't. That's fine. But you should know this woman here designed the evac route that got 38 vehicles, 212 personnel, and every piece of critical equipment out without a single casualty. When the lead went down, she took point. When the comms failed, she ran hand signals in blackout conditions through sniper territory. She didn't just know the terrain. She owned it. The yard stayed still, the only sound the faint ticking of cooling engines. Leah didn't shift, didn't look away, though her jaw tightened the way it does when someone is pulling the curtain back on a part of your life you'd rather keep folded. Harker continued, his eyes sweeping over the MPs standing stiff near the gate, the captain from the second vehicle, the mechanics who had laughed earlier. "She didn't ask to lead today," he said. "But when I saw her name on the manifest, I knew where she belonged." He let the silence hang for a moment longer before stepping back, giving her the floor. Leah looked over the yard, her gaze passing evenly across the same faces that had doubted her hours before. "Convoy runs aren't about who's in front," she said finally, her voice carrying without effort. "They're about whether everyone makes it back. That's it. Rank, time in, all of it. It means nothing if you can't bring your people home. So if you're ever out there and someone tells you to hold formation, you hold it. Not because you trust me, because you trust that someone's already done the hard thinking so you don't have to in the moment." She didn't wait for applause. There wasn't any, not because it wasn't deserved, but because everyone understood the weight of what she'd said. In the days that followed, the shift was subtle but permanent. Mechanics in the yard started greeting her first. The MPs at the gate no longer glanced twice at her ID, but stood straighter when she passed. One morning, she found a laminated photo taped to the inside of the lead MRAP. A grainy shot of her in full kit back in 2019, visor down, hand raised in a signal, convoy lights stretching out behind her into the dark. Underneath, in black marker, someone had written, "Know who you're talking to." Weeks later, a small plaque appeared on the wall inside the motor pool office, Staff Sergeant Leah Rains. Lead, Kandahar Convoy, 2019. No one claimed credit for putting it there, but everyone knew it belonged. She never brought it up, never pointed it out to visiting officers, never even mentioned it to her CO. She didn't need to, because the road, the record, and the people who had ridden behind her spoke for her now. And in the quiet before each new run, when the engines were still and the sun was just starting to climb, there was always at least one young soldier who'd glance at her, then at the plaque, and stand just a little straighter.